It was racially motivated because people are being inconvenienced because they're not following the law. That's so ludicrous.
But you know what? I'll say this. They're pandering. They're not helping. They're pandering.
And those statements, to make those comparisons, it's gaslighting people just to further create a divide.
Welcome to Three Cops Talk. On this podcast, three active duty police officers discuss behind-the-scenes stories and real-life accounts of what it's like to be a cop. Every episode, you'll get an inside look at the challenges and dangers they face on a daily basis, as well as the triumphs and inspirational moments that make it all worth it. If you want to understand more about the men and women who put their lives on the line for us every day, then this is the show for you. And now your hosts, Chris, Scott, and Sean.
Today, we provide our thoughts on the recent unanimous policy presented by the City Council of Ann Arbor, Michigan, that bans their police from conducting otherwise legal traffic stops for minor traffic violations the council claims are systemically targeting people of color. If you have any ideas or topics for the show, please reach out to us at 3copstalk@gmail.com. That's the number 3copstalk@gmail.com. If you'd like to reach us through social media, our details are in the show notes.
Views and opinions expressed in this episode belong solely to the hosts and do not represent the views of any professional organization. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy the show.
You guys know I'm training now. I'm up here in the D.C. area training. And, I don't know about you guys the last time you went to D.C., but D.C., I lost a little faith in D.C. because it's so divisive and so many things that I'm constantly being fed by the media and stuff like that. But you know what? You go to D.C. and there's a lot of memorials there now that are pretty cool. I'd never seen the Vietnam Memorial, and I'd never seen the Korean War Memorial. And there's one now that dedicated to the, Army nurses from the Vietnam Memorial. That didn't get dedicated. Imagine a monument dedicated to women in combat type thing, not until 1993 was that actually finally, I believe was the date it said on there. But I also got to see the Martin Luther King Memorial, which is right over there by the Jefferson. You couldn't even get into the African American History and Culture Museum. There were lines. You had to get tickets or something, which I thought was kind of cool and at the same disappointing because you didn't get to go in. It's you should go to DC. I was turned off by it for a long time. Just nothing gets solved. It's so petty. It's so awful. Rome, as they say, it's compared to but DC itself, you go back there and you look at the ideals, like the Lincoln Monument is still pretty cool. Those kind of things. You go there and you see that stuff. And needless to say, the police memorial, where we got to kind of stop by there and scratch off some of the names, and the World War II one as well. The Holocaust Museum is, dude, that's intense, bro. You go in there. Chris, I was thinking about you because, we usually joke about Poland, but you don't realize the bulk of the abuse that Poland took of that. They were the first country invaded, on that level, and that fought back at least. And then what they did to the Polish Jews, it's unreal, dude. It's just you walk out of there I'm spent. I need a drink. You know what I mean? It's awful. But I think America, I think just as quick as it rose to kind of help in those situations, I think it's falling as well. We're losing sight of what politics really is now is about division.
I think politics now has become not only division, Sean. I think it's become it's all about them. It's not, anybody that says us. I'm here for the people. No, you're not. You're a freaking liar.
Yeah.
I was reading an article the other day. Barack Obama came in and his net worth was $1.7 billion.
Yeah, I saw that same thing. They're talking about all these politicians' net worth. They're multimillionaires after really accomplishing nothing in politics, and it's so many of them. It's on both sides. All these people, they go into politics, and you instantly become millionaires. Doing what?
Yeah,
civil servants.
I don't. I agree with you that I don't even think it's for the people, by the people. Now, I think it's for the politicians, for the politicians.
But that's not unique in the history of in governments and relationships between power and the people that they did. We're at fault in this as voters. We don't pay attention to this. We're not educated in this process. We listen to the people that make us feel good, and those are usually the people that are most extreme on both sides. I don't care what anybody says. That's what this is about. If you're a moderate, you can't get a nomination. You can't get on a ticket. You have to go to these extreme places to get people fired up to listen to you. And that doesn't, like, anybody that says, I'm not going to I'm never going to negotiate with these people. Never had the responsibility of having to keep people safe and together. Like you guys know as well as I do as cops, we have to do these things. And while I was walking past, again, yet the Vietnam War Memorial, I couldn't help but to think what's going on in our world. And again, look, I'm not comparing what we're going through to war and the horror that all of those men and women faced in Vietnam over that situation that we inevitably just, for all intents and purposes, just gave Vietnam back to the savagery from which we claimed to not be a part of, even after fair warnings from the French and everybody else. But what I remembered about that as a kid was that war was laid at the feet of the soldiers. Like it was their fault it went bad. Like baby killers, all of those things. And I used to think that, man, why would we do that to people that just said, I'm going and following the orders that you're giving me. I'm fine. I signed up. I didn't dodge a draft. Like if I'm a guy from Vietnam, I didn't dodge a draft. I went there. I didn't have college because college wasn't for everybody. Because if you went to college back then, you didn't have to go to Vietnam. And all of those names are on that wall, but that war was unpopular. And our politicians, through the Pentagon Papers, knew that this was not winnable. Wasn't we? Stayed there anyway, and we laid our most precious commodity on the altar of freedom. And like you guys said earlier, all of these politicians got richer off the war effort. We didn't solve a problem over there, and we blamed it on the people that did what was right and said, oh, the people that are defying the law of the draft, which, by the way, none of those politicians changed. Because I don't know about you guys, but when we were 18, what did we have to go do down at the post office? You guys draft dodgers? Are you fucking kidding me? Both of you guys?
Merchant Marine.
No, when you're 18, you signed up to vote and you registered for the draft.
Right. And by the way, in all the equity that's going on in the world, guess who doesn't have to sign up for the selective service still? I love getting in a debate with my lady friends like, well, yeah, I know equity's cool, but hey, did you go down and sign up for the draft yet? And they're like, shut up. I'm like, but it's true. It is what it is. But anyway, that point, I can't help but to think that's happening to cops right now. Cops are being blamed for things that, look, legislation is supposed to be changed through the legislative process. You uphold the laws and you swear to that. We all do. Politicians, city council members, things like that. But there's a recent case in Ann Arbor, Michigan. They passed a recent ordinance that bans police officers from making traffic stops for minor traffic infractions. And generally, I don't know about you guys, but that should be challenged in court by somebody. And anybody that's on that council should be maybe taken out of office because they're not upholding their oath of the laws. Right. The process works like this. If you don't like a law, you lobby the people that created the law to change the law. You just don't say, we're going to ban our police officers from doing something that's actually by law, been voted upon, reviewed, things like that, in order to, address racial inequity.
I'm going to have a council member tell me what laws I should and should not enforce. Right. That doesn't seem problematic.
Under the state statute. Right. And again, it's very confusing because again, it's being laid at the feet of the police. Again, it's all based upon racial inequity. And that's what the council is. It was a unanimous vote across the board that they said that these are the kind of things that specifically target people of color, indigenous people, and now we're rolling handicapped people into that too. Those folks were saying that they were being stopped because of hang tags and everything else. Of course, I'm reading articles where the media, the Detroit Free Press, has gone out and obviously put together a great article on, basically this is all true based upon data and statistics that some group have found that show that those inequities, those things that, we're terrorizing as police officers, people of color, even police officers of color are terrorizing people of color, that they lead to incredibly violent encounters regularly between the police. And one council member went as far, and I'm going to shut up here in a minute because I'm just so aggravated about it. You guys can tell because you've listened to the show enough. When I rant, I need to be quiet and let these other guys talk. But she went to the base emotion of this, and they said, this is no different than the slave catchers before the Civil War. And since the end of the Civil War, it's just been reflagged as something we know as modern policing. I'm thinking to myself, these are the rational people, the good people of the city of Ann Arbor have elected and unanimously voted based upon statements like this. How are we ever going to come together and solve the problems that really affect those communities when everything is like taken down to that level. Like where guys riding around with whips trying to capture people and put them in chains and everything else for basically, hey, sir, you got to pay for your registration. You know, I'm going to let you go with a warning. I know that's, you know, how many times have we done that as cops? But it was just so aggravating to see that after seeing all this stuff in Washington, D.C. And there were some comparisons. Like I thought they're like, hey, you're a Vietnam veteran. For the first 10 years you came back from that war, you were made to believe you were why we lost and you deserved it. I can't help but to think that we're doing that to police officers right now. You're going out there and doing these awful things. Well, these are the laws that the people you vote for created. They tell us to go out there and enforce this stuff because driving is a privilege, not a right. And it's just so aggravating. It's so aggravating.
And those statements, it's what they're saying, that to make those comparisons is it's gaslighting people just to further create a divide there and get people. That does nothing to unify the community between the police and the people that live in that community. I was looking from the same article, and it says that they had some ACLU attorney and also this council person that their hope is that Ann Arbor police will instead focus on the department's resources on alternatives to community policing and a renewed focus on investigating and preventing crime in neighborhoods. Well, guess what? How many times have we in our careers, on the hundreds if not thousands of traffic stops that we've made, interacted with people that have been probably 99% of positive or at least neutral interactions with people instead of these violent things that they claim are happening so frequently? What better way to connect with people from the community that maybe you do stop them for something simple, some equipment violation, expired registration, and you tell them, hey, you know, this is why I stopped you. You have expired license plates from 2 months ago. Oh, you know what? I'm really sorry. I just moved here from out of state. Or, hey, I just moved here. I didn't know where the Secretary of State's office is. Or, hey, I changed my address and they didn't send me the renewal in the mail. Hey, great. No problem. You don't have a bad driving record? Just please go get it taken care of. Here's a warning. Have a nice day. How many times does that happen where police officers have positive interactions with the community, not what they're trying to make it sound like it is this continual battle every day where police are just going out every day to hassle as many people as they can and racially profile everyone and just ruin everybody's life, as opposed to just going out and doing some of those things in the community and enforcing those traffic laws, and probably a large percentage of the time giving people warnings for those small types of things. You know what I mean? Like, that is community interaction. That is community policing. That is getting involved in your community. If you sit and stop cars in a neighborhood where there's been complaints of speeding and kids in the street and all this stuff, and people see a police officer out there, and you make a couple of stops and people say, well, hey, this is great. I like to see that the police are out here doing some things, getting involved with the community. That those things are positives, and they want to turn it into in this story that it's us just going out every day with this directive of just finding how many people we can hassle. And when they talk about like investigating and preventing crime, how many crimes get averted or potentially avoided because of things like traffic enforcement, because someone someone has a warrant, or you stop someone for something you might not even be looking for anything, and then it turns out that there's drugs in the car or a gun in the car. Like, that's where those things come from. That is how you're protecting your community. So it's aggravating when you hear that, well, we're just going to, basically what you're saying is, with the not stopping for these things, we'll just eliminate that whole section of interacting with the community. We just won't stop people for that. So the police will have zero contact with anybody for minor traffic violations. And that's going to somehow bring everybody closer. Give me a break.
Well, right. I think what the other thing is that they're putting us on a racial motivation stuff. And I don't know about a lot of people out there and stuff, but we worked midnights. And when we worked midnights for the longest time, we couldn't tell what color the driver was. we were going on visible infractions, and we would make that contact. And just like Scott said, you know what that contact did? That contact at 2:30 in the morning, driving down a street, no lights, no tail light, no registration lights. Hey, dummy, I'm out here. Anything you were thinking about doing, guess what? They're turning around and going home. But since you can't put a number on that, all right, people are like, well, it's racially motivated. It's not racially motivated. It's good police work to check out what's going on in people's neighborhoods, and let's just lay it out there. They are violating the vehicle code. So where does that stop? But when they violate the vehicle code, you stop, you make that contact. Yeah, maybe there's guns, maybe there's drugs, or maybe they're like, hey, you know what? You maybe never want to go around that area because Chris and his dog are out there, and you probably don't want to mess around over there or whatever. And guess what? It gets to the city or gets on the street, and people don't come around there, and therefore you're safer. But you can't quantify it. People become racially motivated. It becomes racially motivated because people are being inconvenienced because they're not following the law. That's so ludicrous. There's a law. You follow the law. You don't follow the law. You get an infraction. Well, no. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that because we just don't feel like it. And just then when what happened? How come you're not stopping them? Or how come now burglary and motor vehicles have gone up? My cars got broken into. It's never happened before because they're not allowing us to make a small infraction stop to let people see the big pretty lights like it's Christmas, let them know that we're out there to keep criminals away. It's just so ludicrous. And I cannot understand when the politicians vote this stupid shit in, where do they think that this is going to bring people together? By forgiving people all the time, or letting it not happen, or letting it just go by the wayside, you are creating a more divided society. It's just like being married or having a friend, or as cops, we have to have that hard talk with some of the people we work with. And I've told the story before. When I walked in front of the tube of a shotgun going into somebody's apartment, guess what? That guy pulled me over and goes, bro, what are you doing? You have to have the hard talks. You just can't let it go. If you want to make society better, you got to sit down and you have to say, I did this, you did this. We've got to come to some type of agreement. You just cannot say, well, it's okay. Just don't do that. It's not going to get any better because guess what? Now everybody's going to come to Ann Arbor because now they know they're not going to get stopped for a registration. How many times have we heard on the street? You saw some guy that you've known for a while. Hey, bro, where's your Ford at? Oh, man, the registration's late. I'm not going to take the car out when the registration being late. So even if they're thinking about committing a crime, they know that we're going to stop them because their plate's late or expired or revoked or whatever. They're not going to go out and commit crime. It's just I don't know where the thinking comes from.
Right. And they talk in there about this. One of the comments in that article that Sean's referencing, I was looking at the same thing that and I don't know what the Urban Institute is. I didn't research that, but they claim that that traffic stops they say that traffic stops neither increase trust in police or people's perceived sense of safety among their neighbors. Okay. You go to any police, any police department, anywhere in the country, say any suburban area, and any of the agencies that we've worked for, how many complaints do you get about, hey, there's a school down the street, or hey, we live in a residential neighborhood and there's some high school kids that are racing up and down the street all the time. And what do? We go out, maybe it's just your regular beat officers, maybe you have a traffic unit, whoever will typically go out there and spend some time running radar, making traffic stops, making police presence known in the neighborhood. And again, maybe it's not even people speeding. Maybe it is some of those things like expired registration and these things that they're talking about in this article. But you know what? When you go out and do that in the community and people see you out doing that, and it's not always a permanent fix. It doesn't mean that, 2 weeks later, somebody can't be speeding through the neighborhood. But you know what? When you have like a problem area, a problem neighborhood, a problem street where people are racing around or just doing ignorant stuff, You go out there and you make some traffic stops and you show the police presence out there. And again, the beauty of it is we have discretion still.
Right.
We have discretion. You don't have to go out there and hammer everybody with tickets. Maybe you just go out there and write some warnings and say, hey, watch your speed. Hey, get your plates renewed. Hey, you know what I mean? Because the people that are watching that, the people that are seeing that, the people that drive by with their kids and their family in their minivan don't know or care if you're writing someone a ticket or a warning. All they know is, hey, you know what? I live in this neighborhood. I called into the front desk of the police department and I asked for some extra patrols or some, enforcement because of what was going on out here. And now I see for the last 2 or 3 days, I've seen a couple police officers out here, watching the traffic, making some stops, doing some things. And then the message gets out. That is what we do. And that does have, it's so ignorant to say that doesn't have a positive impact on the community. It does. And it's maybe not just that, but there's a lot of those types of things.
I had a friend of mine that works in a large agency in a really, really bad neighborhood. And we were talking about this about a month ago. And he said, and I don't know why, and I'm not a math guy. I'm not I'm not the smart one. Sean's the smart one. I don't know why they don't. I don't know why they don't put together statistics like this. By himself, he figured out if he were to go out on his 8-hour shift overnight and he would make anywhere between 5 to 8 stops, just randomly throughout the night. Lights on, make a big show of it, always being nice, no yelling, no cursing, but actually engage people in conversation where the lights are going for 5-10 minutes. Like, you're getting a warning, but hey, and they would just engage. Lights are going over. He figured out that if he did 5 to 8 stops for whatever, the burglaries, the armed robberies, or the shootings decreased by almost 25% to 30%.
Right.
Just because he's out there with the Christmas lights going.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, that whole system is never going to see the light of day under the current conditions. The media knows that we like to be divided. They feed us stories that are like this all the time to further divide us because that's what we keep clicking on. We're talking about it, so obviously we're impassioned about it. The thing that I don't like is that we're not very smart about it as a society. We don't look at these people and say, you're done. Like, I'm literally listening right now, RFK Jr., Robert Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. The dude's shirtless doing push-ups. By the
way, when he starts riding a horse like Putin, I'm going to wonder what's going on. With
look
that
out!
Shirt
look out! But the guy's making some great points, and he's making some great points by calling out both sides. He's a Kennedy. He's part of the Illuminati in the United States. He can't get elected because the system doesn't want him to get elected. Yeah, he is taking all of us in the middle that are going, yeah, okay. I don't know if I'd ever vote for an independent again. Ross Perot, you're hearing it sucking sound. He called Bill Clinton to win the election. That's the last famous guy. But a lot of people listen to what Ross Perot said and said was like, young men and women should not be going to Djibouti to drink warm Coca-Cola. We should not send American young men and women to do what Djibouti people should do. Like that, that kind of stuff. But anyway.
I didn't realize you had so many quotes.
Right. But anyway, you had to dig for that one. You had to dig for that one. You had to dig for that one.
Google Ross Perot quotes.
The chief, how do you lead your people as a chief when you immediately get in line with this obvious just rhetoric, just like the worst possible rhetoric you could refer to? And the chief's like, we're going to enact this right away. Like Travis Yates talks about cowardly leaders in the police world. Police leaders should go, it's not about me making it to the NA and getting the freaking master's jacket and the yellow brick. It should be, it's bull. When this stuff is going and it's a lie, well, the people that suffer from that the most are the people that these people on the town council are claiming they're trying to protect the most. Disproportionate amount of crime, violent crime against black people when the police retreat and there's no accountability for that. No one wants to talk about those stats. They're not going to interdict crime, and the people that will suffer will be the people that you're claiming to look out for more.
I would love to know what that city council member's background is, that she's so enlightened to the ways of law enforcement that her just feel-good idea that popped into her head that she wants to now push as a directive for the police department. What is your background? Why do you, to your point, Sean, like, Why is a police chief even entertaining what this council member is saying? Why not pause and say, okay, well, let me tell you why that's not the case. Or how about, do you think this city council member has ever done a ride along with a police officer? You think that this city council member has ever had any interaction with anybody in the police department or some real on the ground experience seeing what happens? I'm not saying that all decisions have to be made that way, but this is just something that I'm guessing is probably just a feel-good thing to say that will get votes versus what is the real impact that it's going to have on the communities. And you think there'll ever be? We're always talking about accountability on us as police. And I mean, accountability is like, it drives us every day. It's in every single thing that we do. But do you think that this council member who does one term and spouts off about this, what they think is such a great plan, and we're going to tell our officers what laws to pick and choose that they can and can't enforce, and then that council member disappears after one term and everyone feels the ripple effect of that for however long after? And are they planning to study this? Is she planning to provide data on how this has fixed things? Hey, I received a grant and we're going to study this and we're going to show that we're going to do this for 12 months or 2 years or whatever it is. And we're going to show that this has had some type of positive impact, or what they're talking about has helped move other resources within the department to make things better. Please, I would ask that you pass this with that caveat of, we're going to do this for 12 months and let's see if it's actually made a difference in the community.
Well, I know we're winding down, but here's one thing that I do want to say, and everybody could fact check me, but if I recall, Timothy McVeigh, okay, everybody know who he is, lives up to Oklahoma, right?
White supremacist.
Right. He was caught on a minor traffic violation after killing 180, 60, something like that, children, and taking out
children, right?
Yeah,
right.
some were children.
Oklahoma City bombing.
What's the son of Sam's name? David Berkowitz.
David Berkowitz.
I believe David Berkowitz was either caught on a minor traffic violation and or a parking ticket. And so whatever they're talking about racial profiling and all this other stuff, I have no idea. You have two mass murderers, or serial killers and white supremacists and terrorists being caught on these minor traffic violations. That I think the proof is in the reality of the numbers and the proof is in the reality that good cases come from these things. And I also think that people feel a lot safer seeing us out there.
Well, you know what? I'll say this: they're pandering. They're not helping. They're pandering. This is pandering. You're not helping.
Right.
No one's being an adult. No one's being an adult about any of it. Let's stop being so irrational, finding bad data wherever you want to find it from groups that are making millions of dollars, billions of dollars, shaking cities down and organizations down by claiming that. And by the way, there's a process. There's a process that if you don't like a law, lobby your legislature to take those laws off the book. And then guess what? When those laws aren't on the book anymore and you are dealt with by the police for a myriad of other reasons, you're going to claim those laws don't matter. Remember the petty weed thing? We legalized weed. Remember that?
Yeah.
To end violence in the inner city. Violence is at an all-time high, and most of these places that are legalizing weed aren't going to find any, oh, well, look at that. Well, we legalized weed because the police just harassed people of color because of weed. Like, look, weed should be legal. I get it, right? Whatever. It's like, I'd much rather deal with somebody stoned than somebody drunk. But the bottom line is we're just pandering to people at this point. Right. Nobody's being an adult in the room. It's all going to burn down, and we're all going to go, well, just blame the police because it's a failed system. Look, our government isn't working. If black people feel this poorly about their own country, why is it only laid at the feet of the police? Why are we only marching on the police? Why are we not mad when every single weekend during the summer, cities fill up morgues with young black men that are shooting each other? Something else is wrong beyond the police.
And if anybody from Ann Arbor would like to reach out to us and let us know your opinion on, those of you that live in Ann Arbor, what you think about this policy with your police department, we'd love to hear from you.
That'd be great. Yeah, and you can send those questions and or comments. And if you want to come on the show, you can email 3copstalk@gmail.com. That's the number 3copstalk@gmail.com. And please, I mean, the more we hear from the people that what they're experiencing, the better their show will be, and the better, quicker we could probably bridge this gap of insanity. It's crazy. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. You have the email. Go to the website, 3copstalk.com. And please, where you get your podcasts, download, leave a rating and review, subscribe. It really helps us get our word out. And thank you, everybody.
Ever wanted to ask a police officer a question? Mail your questions to 3copstalk@gmail.com. That's the number 3copstalk@gmail.com, and we'll answer them on the show. Follow us on Instagram at 3copstalk. That's the number 3copstalk. Thanks for listening, and stay safe out there.